Okay, so the next group that we're going to talk about from the early medieval Christian European art scene are the Visigoths and the Mozarabic art. So Romans never ruled Ireland, but they did rule Spain. And the Romans brought roads to the Iberian Peninsula being Spain and Portugal in contemporary terms, right? They also bring aqueducts, theaters, temples, fora, which is the plural of forum. So we have some connections between Rome and Spain historically. Also remember our two Spanish emperors of Rome, Trajan and Hadrian, who we learned about. Trajan's column is one of the things you have to know. Hadrian's the beard guy who built the Pantheon. Okay. After Rome, the area that's now Spain fell to German invaders, the Visigoths, who came from what is now Germany. They were Christians, so they built churches while they were conquering in Spain. This is one such church. So the Visigoth king Rhysyswenth built this church. So he's around from 649 to 672. So he rules for quite a while. He builds this. This is San Juan Bautista, and this is built by him. And he basically built it as a thank you for a cure. So he was injured and then probably got an infection and thought he was going to die, and he converts to Christianity and is healed, and so he builds this church as a thank you for being healed. So this is kind of a basilica. It has multiple apses and it's a little smaller than most of the basilica forms that we have looked at and are going to continue looking at, but it's in that basic form where it has the nave and it has the side aisles. It has an apse, but with multiple chapels radiating on either side. You also can see in the windows and the area up above the door that we have horseshoe arches. So horseshoe arches are associated with Islamic architecture, as you know, because we've talked about Islamic architecture in Spain at this time. This actually predates the Islamic takeover of Spain. So there are already horseshoe arches being created here in some of these type of buildings by Visigoths. Okay, Tabara. So Islamic forces overtake Spain, but the northmost point stays Christian. And this is, so this group of people are called the Mozarabic, which are Christians living in a Muslim-controlled territory, okay? So there's this monk named Beatus who writes a commentary on the Apocalypse. That's the name of the manuscript. He writes a commentary on the Apocalypse, which was very influential. It was widely copied. And in it, we have an illustration that goes with his description of a scriptorium. So it's the earliest known depiction of a scriptorium, which is what you see here. So this is a depiction of Tabara, which is this monastery in Mozarabic, which is this Christian stronghold in northern Spain. And so we can see the writing studio down at the bottom. So this is kind of a cross section of Tabara, and you can see to the bottom right we have two monks who are either writing or illustrating manuscripts, which is kind of cool. So here's a closer look at this. Emeterius was the painter of this manuscript, so we have his name and Beatus, who was the guy who wrote it, which is kind of cool because we have both of their names and can attribute this to them. You'll notice here we see the horseshoe arches again, which in Moorish Islamic architecture in Spain become kind of omnipresent, so it makes sense that we see them show up in Christian architecture of this time in this area as well. Let's see, so Emeterius is the painter of this manuscript. Magius is the master painter, and he inscribes in this, "May he be crowned with Christ." So for his dedication and for his work in illustrating manuscripts, he hopes that he will have this kind of reward in the afterlife. Another figure from this area is Inde. So she is a nun, and she was a very famous manuscript painter from this region during this time period. So you can see here some of her work over on the right, and then this is her self-portrait on the left. So she is someone who's pretty well known in the area, and you know, you've noticed through these lectures that I like to highlight when we have women artists, because they're sort of few and far between in terms of being actually recorded from these time periods. So Inde was a fairly famous transcriber of manuscripts, but also illustrator of manuscripts. Okay, next we're going to talk about the Carolingian Empire, which features a pretty famous guy that you might have heard of before.